Our topic for today is Megaloblastic Anemia. So, what it is? It is defective DNA synthesis which result in microcytic anemia.
Next is the causes of megaloblastic anemia. Megaloblastic anemia can be occurred due to two situations. First, deficiency in vitamin B12 and folate deficiency. Vitamin B12 is a nutrient found in some foods like fish, meat, eggs, and milk. However, people who love to eat vegetables or known as vegetarian are having more risk of vitamin B12 deficiency. In some cases, people may unable to absorb the vitamin due to alcohol addiction, autoimmune disease, inflammatory bowel disease, and cancer. Next is folate deficiency. Folate is another nutrient that is important for the development of healthy red blood cells. It can be found in spinach, beef liver, and Brussels sprout.
Role of vitamin B12. First, isomerizations of methylmalonyl CoA to succinyl-CoA. Second, synthesis of methionine from homocysteine. Function of folic acid are to synthesis thymidylate from uridylate, synthesis methionine from homocysteine, synthesis purine, and catabolism of histidine.
Follow up by the pathophysiology of megaloblastic anemia. As we all know, megaloblastic anemia is caused by the deficiency of vitamin B12 and folate. Without both elements, this will lead to impairment in DNA synthesis. Basically, only nuclear development is affected, while the cytoplasm matures normally. This will result to a large nucleated immature erythrocyte known as megaloblasts. Vitamin B12 can be found in a variety of foods. It will be absorbed in distal ileum and also bind to intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor is produced by parietal cell in the stomach to protect vitamin B12 from degradation by the intestinal enzyme. Then, the vitamin will be used during DNA synthesis. However, vitamin B12 can be deficit due to lack diet intake of vitamin B12 and also lack of intrinsic factor. The decrease in intrinsic factor may be caused by gastric surgery and pernicious anemia. Next is the folate deficiency. The most common factor is due to inadequate dietary intake such as meat, vegetables, and eggs. It can also caused by other factors like pregnancy, lactation, intestinal disease like inflammatory bowel disease, and medication.
Commonly, folic acid is present in nature as polyglutamate. It is necessary for folates to convert from polyglutamates to tetrahydrofolate to participate in metabolic reactions. The major function of THF is to transfer single carbon substituents such as methylene, methyl, and formyl group to different compounds. Among the metabolic reactions involved are synthesis of thymidylate from uridylate. This is the most important reaction mediated by folate since it is necessary for DNA synthesis. Second, synthesis of methionine from homocysteine. Third, synthesis of purines. And fourth, histidine catabolisms. These processes are divided into three, which are absorption, transport, and storage. Dietary folates or polyglutamates is deconjugated to the monoglutamate form by intestinal conjugase. This happens in the upper intestinal epithelial cells so that it is all absorbed in the form of monoglutamate. The absorption process occurs in proximal jejunum and converted to methyl tetrahydrofolates and is transported to various tissues bound to some unknown proteins. For the transport, folate is released in portal circulation as methyl tetrahydrofolate and is transported to various tissues bound to some unknown protein. For the storage of folate, liver is the main site of storage where it is stored mainly as methyl AHF polyglutamate. When vitamin B12 intake happens, the salivary gland will produce heptachlorine. Binding happens between heptachlorine and vitamin B12. This complex gets transported into the stomach. In the stomach, parietal cells produce hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor. After this complex passes through the stomach, pancreas produces pancreatic protease. Pancreatic protease will release the heptachlorine from vitamin B12 and allow intrinsic factor to bind to the vitamin B12 in the duodenum. This complex will then transported to the small intestine and arrive at the terminal ileum. This is where absorption of vitamin B12 happens. Vitamin B12 get removed from the intrinsic factor and brought into the bloodstream and attached to transcobalamin. Next, it moves to the liver through the portal vein to be stored. And some will actually lost in the urine. Reabsorption can also occur here by megalin produced by the renal tubules. From this way, the body can retain vitamin B12 so it is not lost so easily.
What are the signs and symptoms of megaloblastic anemia? The person will experience fatigue, shortness of breath, muscle weakness, and weight loss.
So now, we proceed with clinical features of megaloblastic anemia. Generally, folate deficiency develops more rapidly, only takes months, than vitamin B12 that takes years. We have three kinds of clinical features of folate deficiency. Firstly, weakness, easily fatigue, and TD, spina bifida, anencephaly, and sore tongue. Meanwhile, for clinical features of vitamin B12 deficiency. Firstly, neurologic abnormalities. Second, weakness, tiredness. And thirdly, heart palpitation. Next, mild jaundice, then numbness, tingling and burning sensation at lower extremities like legs. Lastly, glossitis.
Next is the lab finding of megaloblastic anemia. As for the lab finding, all types of megaloblastic anemia have the same outcome. Lab finding for megaloblastic anemia consists of two things. First is blood count and blood film, and second is bone marrow appearance. As for the blood smear and blood film, there is the existence of macrocytosis, anisocytosis, and poikilocytosis in the blood. Macrocytosis is the enlargement of red blood cells from the normal. Anisocytosis is the condition where the red blood cells have unequal size, and poikilocytosis is the condition where the red blood cells have abnormal shape than usual. In severe cases, blood smear may appear oral macrocyte, hypersegmented neutrophils, basophilic stippling, Cabot ring, and Howell-Jolly bodies. Next is for the bone marrow appearance. In severe cases, bone marrow is markedly hypercellular with a relative increase in early erythroblasts caused by death of later cells. There is also giant and abnormal shape of metamyelocytes are found. Other than that, megakaryocyte shows hypersegmented nuclei with an open chromatin network. In mild cases, megaloblastic changes in the red cell precursors are only identified in late erythroblasts with mild asynchrony of nuclear cytoplasmic ratio development. Last but not least, the diagnostic criteria of megaloblastic anemia. Megaloblastic anemia has low hemoglobin count, low hematocrit level, low red blood cell count, low white blood cell count, high mean corpuscular volume, and high mean corpuscular hemoglobin.
Okay, so next we are going to move on to the next part, which is the treatment for megaloblastic anemia, which is B12 deficiency. Treatment to manage anemia is often depends on its underlying causes. So firstly, you may need monthly injections of vitamin B12. Secondly, oral supplements may also be given. Lifelong supplemental administrations of these vitamins may be necessary. And last but not least, adding more foods with vitamin B12 to your diet can also help to manage anemia. Okay, so now let's move on to the treatment of the megaloblastic anemia in the case of folate deficiency. Okay, so megaloblastic anemia caused by a lack of folate may be treated with oral or intravenous folic acid supplements. Lifelong administration of these vitamins may be necessary in most cases in treating this anemia. Next, implementing dietary change can also help in treating anemia. Foods to include in your diet to help boost your folate levels will include, first of all, orange, peanuts, grains, leafy vegetables, and lastly, lentils.